Okay, good. Hello and welcome. This is Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. This is the second semester of 2017, and it's the 6th installment of this semester so far, so it's lesson 6. And what I'm going to speak about today, it's August 18th, is all about the flying rainbow lasagna and how exactly to transform the genetic structure of the ordinarily toroidal, ducking off camera here, ordinarily toroidal energy field. And I'll hold it just right, there we go, just right so you can see it, into this flying rainbow lasagna shape, which I would describe as a type of hypertorus. So I use this shorthand all the time. What cube is to tesseract, torus is to flying rainbow lasagna. So a cube is like a third dimensional boxy shape, and a tesseract is the next highest dimensional version of a cube, which would look like kind of like a cube that is constantly unfolding from within itself. But there's all sorts of different two-dimensional diagrams that people use as a type of shorthand, just like I do my shorthands of the time field, right? So the flying rainbow lasagna is like a tesseract in that it is the higher dimensional format and version of the torus shape. So we understand we're becoming experts, we're becoming genetic virtuosos. We understand that this shape is a composite shape, or the end result of energy moving over time. So just like if I took a long exposure picture of me, moving my arm like this, maybe, whatever, swinging a tennis racket, then it would look like I have 10,000 arms. But intellectually, Aurora does not have 10,000 arms. That is one arm that is being shown in motion. That is the truth about the flying rainbow lasagna. What we're looking at here is the end result of what happens when this convergence point oscillates up and down. And that convergence point is this center of the sculpture right here. So even everyone that's in level 1, I emphasize this to the point of overemphasis, that this is the convergence point, and it's the 0th dimension, and it's the place of infinity, and it's like the house where everyone and everything in existence lives. So we call this the singularity. It's not to be confused with the transhumanist singularity, and it's somewhat the same definition as science's definition of the singularity, but not exactly the same. But because science describes a place where the fabric of space-time and consciousness is stretched so profoundly that all of the rules of what we call physical reality breaks down. That I, would say is an accurate description of this, what I am trying to depict here. It's the idea that that's the place where everything is. All thoughts and all consciousness and all particles and all forces and everything that could possibly ever exist exists there. It's the only place that is like that. So it's single by its definition. There's only supposed to be one of it. So when I show you this sculpture, you say, wait, Aurora, I thought you said that that purple thing in the middle is the singularity. Putting my little sculpture down. How come you have two singularities in this map of reality? And the answer is, I don't have two. I have one. It's this one and this one. And it's jumping back and forth so fast that it makes this shape. So this is what it means to vibrate the donut shape, the torus shape, into a flying rainbow lasagna shape and achieve an additional degree of freedom. This is what I'm all trying to talk about and share about. And I've, like I said in the introduction and the little moments in between recording, that humanity is very fraught right now, that I try to keep these recordings universal and not too topical. However, I'm noticing that there's a great deal of we're under great duress. And it's this birth process that we are giving birth to a new level of consciousness. And the new level of consciousness that we are all, as individuals and as a collective anthropomorphic human society, and also planetary consciousness structure, and also stellar network structure, is the combination of inside and outside, or the combination of spirit and matter. Or we can replace that word spirit with consciousness, or awareness, or pure energy. Because what we've got with Einstein gave us that beautiful equation that says E on one side and mass on the other side. So we've got mass and energy in constant dualistic opposition. Or I was speaking about the idea of the ego being a boundary, like a membrane, analogous to the cell membrane, that says everything inside of this membrane is different than everything outside of this membrane. But I tell everyone in this class all the time, You're not just swimming around in your own private kiddie pool of thoughts. And I've spoken extensively about the tendril of attention that we use to attenuate, to reach out, and what we are thinking about and placing our attention upon, we are literally connecting to. And I've also shared the idea of the vibrating strings of your DNA affecting, through sympathetic vibration, the vibrating strings of other people's DNA. And this is also part of interdimensional ethics, because we're allowed to be here. So kind of like getting a body, even just getting a body is kind of an audition process to see, are you worthy of being in the physical reality and having this experience? Because the physical reality is one of the very few special places where all of these different divergent levels of consciousness, energy moving at different rates and having different densities, all of the different particles, all the different forces can all interact in the physical realm, just like actors on an actual stage. So this physical realm, this is, we call it the material world. The material world, matter, comes from the root word mother. And this level of reality is literally the womb within which we have been gestating our consciousness. And our consciousness is our individual, what's inside of your own epidermis, what's inside of your own skull. But our consciousness is also collective. It is also what we as human society are thinking about. That's why it's not just you in your own private kiddie pool. Your vibrations are affecting the rest of the musicians. Your notes are affecting the rest of the whole symphony, and they are, of course, feeding back into you. And this is all the way it's supposed to be. You're not just supposed to be your own garage band musician, just playing your guitar in your own garage with no other musicians around. That would be like you being one human with no other humans, with no other microbes, with no other plants, no other animals, no one, nothing around to interact with. So we're starting to understand the symphony that I'm talking about here. This is a symphony of consciousness, a symphony of life. And we have to integrate our own personal desires, or mitigate our own personal desires with the personal desires and fulfillment of all of these other organisms. Because I've said this many times, you have to be in partnership with microbes in order to be alive. Little tiny one-celled microbes that all live in your tummy and help you digest your food, and they also live on your skin and they help to keep your skin healthy. I mean, this is the definition of all of these musicians working together and playing together. So okay, so this is not just me talking a lot. So it's also a set of actual actions that you can do. Just like, I don't just talk about music theory. At a certain point, you actually have a piano and you actually put your fingers on the keyboard and actually make things happen. So this is not just an intellectual, thing that we think and talk about. It's actually maneuver, a practice, a dance, a thing that you do. So starting off with the whiteboard here and just making the thing come up. Good. Your DNA is not a flat, static object. So usually DNA in our science textbooks, it's like, oh, here's an X-shaped chromosome. And this X-shaped chromosome is the end result of supercoiling, where basically you have all of these different individual DNA threads or tendrils that are woven together into thicker and thicker ropes and eventually tightly coiled into this X-shaped genetic structure. But that is only happening during a very limited portion of the life of a cell. That happens right before mitosis. Mitosis is cell division, and that is like packing up all of your stuff in your suitcase so that you can get on an airplane. Like, I roll up my underwear, I roll up my socks, I roll up everything into the tiniest little, square footage possible in order to fit it in the suitcase. That is what is going on in chromosome and supercoiling. But for a large portion of the lifespan of a cell, here's a cell membrane, here's a nuclear membrane, and inside of the nuclear membrane, here I'll choose a different color. All of this blue stuff that I'm drawing here, it's a giant unfurled sweater. We took this sweater that has been knitted up into these complex loops and patterns, and we have pulled all the threads apart so that now all of those threads are accessible to the little RNA messengers. And this is, repeat from last week and from other weeks. I'll go back into my photos too. I will squint and scroll and get the pictures. I'm squinting further. Where's my, picture that I'm looking for. I'm not seeing the one I'm looking for. It doesn't matter. Anyway, I'll choose this one instead. This is an example of supercoiling, how it goes from this tendril that is like one piece of thread here that wraps around these proteins that are called histones 2 times, and then makes these, I hope you can see it, these are all tori or donuts. And I highlighted this last week too, that they're like stacked up donuts, like here's one stacked up donut, here's the next stacked up donut, and that is possible to make all of these donuts vibrate and oscillate into new formats. So this is what this is all about. I'm trying to say with many, many words. Your DNA is not a flat, static object, and many wonderful research scientists at this point have gone beyond the teaching of genetic fatalism, meaning you are fated, not that something is necessarily fatal, but the idea that if it is written in your DNA, if it's written in your genes, you are fated to have that experience or manifestation or disease. And that's epigenetics, and that I bring it up all the time, the work of Bruce Lipton, and the idea that identical twins do not develop identical diseases. And that is because there is a code that rules the code, or a consciousness or an intelligence that directs what elements of the blueprint of possibilities actually comes forward into experienced and manifested reality. So we also are co-creator participants in creating reality, and we're recognizing that right now a lot of people are uncontrolled in their manifestations. So part of that is the actual teaching that things are out of your hands. That was never truthful. That was one of these non-factual implantations that says, oh, you know, just because it's written in your DNA, it has to happen to you, and you don't get to make any kind of a choice about that. So the truth is, you get to make a huge choice. But I'm not necessarily saying, again, about gross protein structures like this flying rainbow lasagna. This is not just a more exotic way to turn or laborious way to turn your eyes from being brown or hazel to being blue. This is not like, you know, self-indulgent contact lenses so that you can just look different. It's not about that, because once we start to recognize, wait, I've been gifted with a reality creation tool. You know, I have my inner creativity and this paintbrush, and I can use it to paint reality. Then you have to question, what do you want to paint? So that is what I'm trying to help people to understand and share at this time. We're at this moment of great duress. We're at this culmination. We're in this moment of, you know, anything can happen. Anything can come burst forward from this moment of pure potential. And if humanity is starting to combine the inside with the outside and manifest the interior realm into the exterior realm of other people and hard-edged objects, what do we want to manifest? What do I want as an individual to manifest? And how does my particular music, like, am I keeping the beat? And is my beat integrating harmonically with all of you and all of what your beats are? So how exactly do you do this? Oh, that's wonderful. Charlotte is saying that she enjoys looking at my paintings in the background. They make her feel calm. They make me feel calm too. That's why I paint them. And that's why I usually stare at them at the end of the day instead of watching TV. I do what I call sit and stare. I just sit and stare at them, and I see all sorts of interesting things in there. And there's a reason too. There's a reason why these images and color combinations are calming or uplifting or make you feel peaceful or make you feel happy, if that's the feeling that you get from them. It's because this is like music that is harmonious. Ah, that music sounds so beautiful. That music does not sound so beautiful. So of course we want to listen to music that sounds so beautiful, that helps us to be more organized on a cellular level. And when we look at things like this, it also helps us to be more organized on a cellular level. So transforming the toroidal energy structure, transforming, this is your time body. And your time body surrounds and interpenetrates and coincides with your physical body. And I'll, you know, bring up a picture in order to show an example of this. It just takes me a minute to actually get the picture that I'm looking at. Here we go. I use this picture all the time. So this stuff that is right here, we've got the anthropomorphic form, this person with 2 arms and 2 legs and 1 face. But then we've got all of this other stuff all of this other stuff that is around the physical being. And that is like, if you are a fish, this is the water that you're swimming in. This is time. This is consciousness. This is what we are swimming within. And also we have those train cars of reality. Each of these purple boxes is one moment. And the train cars of reality are held together by the integument of these little green squiggles. Make a squiggle, 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 squiggle. These are your DNA, and your DNA doing its dance. Here, I put down my little pen, put down my things. So I can gesture. Your DNA doing its dance is what determines which timeline you are experiencing. And we have that whole time field. I'm just using my hand instead of actually drawing it out, but you understand we have many, many, many different individual timelines. What determines which timeline we actually exist upon? What road are we actually driving upon? And the answer is, it is due to the structuring of our DNA. So part of this teaching is understanding every person is responsible for their own flight through time. It's why it's not appropriate for me to try to, force anyone else to do lasagna or be at any other level of development that they're at. It's like each person needs to be an individual athlete that is actually running with their own power and actually moving through time in their own way. It's why, like, if I were analogous to an art teacher, I would say, here's art materials, here's a paintbrush, here is canvas, here's how you do this, here's how I do this, now you do this in your own way, because it is not appropriate for me to tell you to act exactly like me, or for me to try to control your behavior on a minute level. And that is the strength of this system also. That what we're doing, we are wonderful organic miniature co-creators, and we're little shards of the divine. I'll get to all these questions, and they're all really good questions too. So thank you for asking them, and I'm not ignoring you. I'm in my flow. We do all of these things, and we're part of this larger music, and we're finding a way in order to transform our own individual journey through time. So this is the whole idea, that there are all of these disempowerment narratives that are going on in terms of the government, the economy, religion, external savior programs. And what I can say to everyone in this moment of wonderful possibility is that Flying Rainbow Lasagna, you take radical self-responsibility, and you are able to combine the inside world and the outside world. Okay, so blah, 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 blah. Flying Rainbow Lasagna is this oscillation where we understand it's the end result of a movement through time, just like my hand is the end result of a movement through time going across and, hitting something with a tennis racket or something like that. And that jumping back and forth is a transformation on a genetic level and on the level of the time body. And when you are able to get your singularities, or singularity that exists in various different aspects of your body, because there's a singularity in the nucleus of every cell, in the center of every atom, in the convergence point of each of your chakras and, sub chakras or energy centers of your body. It's like saying you have a million different doors or windows or apertures to get to infinity. And it's the same infinity. And when you make that an infinite aspect of self jump back and forth really, really fast, we're getting this to jump back and forth really, really fast, it makes this oscillation that renders these boundaries permeable. I want to say renders them moot. It renders them permeable. Kind of like, like you open the door because your cat wants to go outside, and they make you stand there for a very, very long time, and all the cold air goes out and all the hot air comes in, and then it's pretty much just the same temperature everywhere. That's what the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is all about. We have had for a very long time the artificial separation of the idea of self versus context. And this is ego. And there's nothing wrong with ego, because there's all these teachings and philosophies where they're like, kill your ego. I'm not like, no, you don't have to kill your ego, but refine your ego and redefine your definition of self, or dilate your identity to include not merely everything that is within your own epidermis, but an expanded definition of self that includes other organisms, other people, and events. Because this time field, just ducking off camera to get my little sculpture, this time field is a living time field. It's not like some dead thing. It's not like some hulking machine, you know, filled with wires or something like that. It's a living being in that it has a metabolism and a consciousness. So we have all these little wonderful red blood cells that circulate around our body, bringing nutrients everywhere and keeping us super healthy and happy. And if they don't circulate around, then we are not healthy and happy. We tend to be dead. Same thing with the time field. This shape is made out of energy that is circulating around. I'm constantly shuffling things. It circulates around in figure 8 motions like this. It circulates around in circle motions like this. It circulates around in vortex motions, going to the center and then spiraling outward from the center. So this has a metabolism of consciousness. And when it is healthy, that consciousness flows without impediment, just like in your body. If your body is healthy, your blood is able to flow without impediment. But let's say there is some kind of a fatty blockage in an artery, and the fat is literally undigested emotional experiences. Food is solidified emotional experience. Food is a thought form. And if you eat it in a way that is unconscious and you do not fully unlock the lessons in that solidified emotional experience, it gets clogged up in your body. It might be adipose or subcutaneous fat, or it might be a fatty blockage in an artery. And that is what the time field at large that we are submerged in, like fish swimming in a river. There are all sorts of impediments. See where my pinky is? Along the membrane of death, in the interstices, in that membrane that separates inside of the time field where my pinky is right now, in that realm in there, here I'm in the bullseye, that realm in there where all the timelines are, from this realm over here where my pinky is now. Those are two separate levels. Sorry, I'm ducking off camera. Separate levels of reality. This orange sculpture represents the negative space where I just had my little finger. That negative space. It looks like 4 lobe shapes, but if you hold it like this, you see, oh, there's a back to it too. So we've got 8 lobe shapes. So this is the negative, meaning just like the empty area, not the bad, wrong, or evil area, but we have 2 different levels of reality that are separated by this membrane, just like we've got the cell membrane, just like we've got the separating aspect of the ego. And what is supposed to happen is those membranes are supposed to be clear, so that if you as consciousness get to the membrane of death, you're supposed to dissolve instantaneously and go into a state of entropy, and your sweater is unfurled and everything resets and goes back to the beginning so that you can start again. And that it has only been because we are in this distorted time field. There's symptoms, we've got symptoms, there's disease. This is not a perfect system. There are blockages and there are areas that have been slowed down. And this is intentional. This is an intentional distortion of the time field. And the solution is, ducking off camera, sorry. I will never give you excruciating details about what is wrong without giving you the solution. The solution is the flying rainbow lasagna. So basically, I know I'm talking a lot here. When you take this and you place it in a higher dimensional context, you get this. Now I got to draw pictures. So when I draw the shorthand, you'll know that I'm drawing the shorthand of this, and then I'll show you how it turns into this. Wait, so let me grab my little pen. So this is that little shorthand that I was talking to you about. I don't know if you can see yellow, so I'll choose a different color that hopefully will show up better on the screen. This represents a cross-section of that little yellow sculpture. And so we've got this vortex up here like this, but then we've also got this vortex over here like this. And this is that lovely central convergence point that I'm making with a big giant dot. So this basically represents time. And according to science's conception of time, time started out as the super compressed central convergence point and then started to expand outward. Here's like the first expansion, the next expansion, continually expanding outward like a big giant balloon that keeps on expanding, that keeps on expanding and expanding and expanding, and that this is the time bubble. So this is just science's model. I'm just using it as an example. I'm not saying everything in this is totally accurate. It's the idea that everything has started emanating outward from this central convergence point. And so if this is the time bubble, what I'm highlighting in black here, this edge, it's another membrane. Look at that. The flying rainbow lasagna vibrates membranes and makes them permeable. So this membrane separates the past. Everything in here that I'm highlighting in black, this is the past. It's everything that's in the rear view mirror. Like we're moving outward in this direction. And so everything that's over here, this is what's in the rear view mirror. And then here, what I'm highlighting out here, this would be considered the future, except according to science, science doesn't even recognize that as being formally in existence. So science has given humanity at this moment this model of a beginning point and expansion into the present moment now, but no context. It is, time bubble is not in any kind of context. So if we took that time bubble, like, you know, this is the bubble, and so we start to dimple it with giant godlike divine fingers in these various directions, this is the shape that we would end up with. And so eventually we realize what we still have is a bubble. It's just a bubble that's been dimpled, and the inside and the outside still do not communicate. So like now I'm going to draw this little, imagine this is a little ant down here. Look, here's his little antennae, here's his little legs, here's his little legs. Okay, so that's an ant, and that ant is walking on the inside of the bubble of time. And now I'm going to draw a different ant. And this little person is walking on the outside of the bubble of time. Here's their antennas. Here's their little legs. And according to that model of science, the inside and the outside can never communicate. Those two ants can never meet and interact and share ideas or energy. It's like saying something from the past and something that has the potential to be in the future can never actually get together and integrate or do anything. And that is the limit of this shape. This shape that I'm highlighting here, this is the shape of your chakras or energy centers of your body. It's that little yellow sculpture that I hold up all the time. There's nothing wrong, bad, or evil, et cetera, about this shape. But a lot of people are like, no, I want to get rid of my chakras. Chakras are limitations. Chakras are constraints. I don't recommend getting rid of your chakras. I recommend transcending your chakras, just like I recommend transcending the limitations of your physical body. Having a physical body in this time and place is a wonderful privilege and a gift that we all have to appreciate. Past the audition, we got born into a physical body, and that means that we're not just musicians listening. You're not just audience members, rather listening to the music of the cosmos. You are also musicians playing the music of the cosmos. That means you're not just here going through the script that someone else wrote for you, and you have to just trudge through it like a horrible nightmare. You get to also be a divine co-creator and write the script along with the larger, great composer or great conductor. So that is the whole idea, that we have a very wonderful opportunity in being physically embodied, because part of our creative capacity, it's not just the capacity to make a baby comes out of your womb, or to make new skin cells. If I scratch my face, I scratch off my outside skin cells. Don't worry, my body will make more skin cells. It's not just that level of creativity. I'm talking about the level of creativity of being able to write a new song, right? Sing a new song, paint a painting that's never been in existence before, or the mere creative capacity of using our perception and painting the world of reality with our attention and what is around us. So we're in this level of reality right now. That is because our DNA has been diminished, is diminished or diluted or knit into a weird, unfulfilling pattern about 10 or 20,000 years ago. And that pattern included these limitations of remember, I was just drawing those train cars, the train cars and your DNA that connects you from train car to train car. Well, the limitations that were programmed into the DNA meant that you could only have certain experiences in certain train cars, that there might be a whole different, there's this whole blue timeline here, blue train cars, but there's just has not been up until this moment an opportunity for you with your green DNA to dance your way over to the blue realm, and then start moving along this blue pathway. So the Flying Rainbow Lasagna allows you to dance your DNA in a new pattern and achieve a new degree of freedom. That's what this is, what I'm pointing to right over here, where that DNA danced off of this timeline to go onto this timeline. That's the additional degree of freedom. So we do that by having a cognitive leap. And the cognitive leap is to take this, chakra or energy center shape, this 4-vortex shape, and place it in a context. Whoa, what am I doing? I'm drawing a box. I am now taking that thing that was just in a vacuum, floating in nothingness with nothing around it, and I just put it in a context. I put it in a place. I put it in a box. And now this blue shape, you know, my yellow sculpture, now that blue shape can move relative to the green box that I put it in. So we can now make this blue shape jump up and down. We can make it jump up and down very, very fast. And when it jumps up and down very, very fast, it makes, let me see if I can draw this, the flying rainbow lasagna shape. Here is a very rough and ready shorthand of flying rainbow lasagna. So in order to transform that yellow sculpture primary chakra shape into the flying rainbow lasagna, what we need to do is take time and reality and place it in a higher dimensional context. And that's not the end of the journey. Place it in a higher context, and then we make it jump up and down or vibrate very fast. So we can say, we've got, that's exactly what Ariel is saying, stretch it up and stretch it down, you got it. Or what we can do is we can hold the blue sculpture in place. Like I imagine that I'm holding this in place, but maybe I'm a big, giant, you know, strong person, and I shake the universe around the shape. I shake the entire house. The sculpture stays in one place, but I shake the entire house. And that also ends up the end result of making the flying rainbow lasagna shape. So all of this, like I said, it is a cognitive leap, because the chains and limitations of our experience, of our flight through time and our manifestation of our bodies and what we can do and what we can do with others, has been mental programming. All of the limitations that we've been facing are because of a story of reality that we have been programmed with. So now ingesting new ideas, new lasagna food, makes you think in new ways. And then that allows your DNA to do a new dance, and you do a new dance, you jump onto a new timeline, you go in a new direction. So the idea is, when you take that, I keep ducking off camera because I don't want to break my sculpture, I have it on a little chair. When you take this little sculpture and you make it jump up and down very, very fast in the higher dimensional context that you have just placed it, this convergence point, half of the time it's up here, half of the time it's down here, but it's the same convergence point. That's the purple, the little purple zones on this sculpture. I've just jumped the singularity up here. Now I've just jumped the singularity down here. I'm jumping up and down very, very fast, and that is what is making this happen. So the flying rainbow lasagna is a meditation or a visualization that you can do similar to the Merkaba. And when you do that, you are intending it to happen on a cellular level and on the level of your time body. So first we are understanding it's a cognitive leap. And now it's not just like, I don't just sit around all day thinking or repeating to the words to myself all the time, flying rainbow lasagna, flying rainbow lasagna. Oh, no, I actually do it like a verb. So it's taken me a long time in order to be able to like parse out, like to dissect out what exactly I do and put it into words that I can share with others. So I'm now ready to do that. I've been doing that, you know, pretty extensively this year, because this is the recipe for how you do it. So how do I dance like a flying rainbow lasagna and encourage others to do it also in concert? We're doing all this in concert. And let me just drink a little bit of water too as I'm going. So the first thing is, I'm solar powered, sun gazing. All of the food that we eat is essentially solidified sunlight. It is essentially the solidified thought expression or thought emanation in partnership with our planet. The planet is full of plants that are intermediaries that catch the sunlight and turn it into food that we can eat and use microbes to digest in our tummies. And that is an appropriate level of reality for who we are right now, but that is not how we will eat after we're born. Just like when you're a little baby in the womb, it's appropriate for you to get all of your information and food through your umbilicus. And then after you're born, that's not where food comes in anymore. Then food comes in through here, and it's a whole different experience. So what I'm saying is, we are collectively and individually giving birth to a new level of reality. And that new level of reality is what happens when you do the flying rainbow lasagna dance, when you make this cognitive metamorphosis transformation, and your DNA acts differently, and you act differently on a cellular level, and your body metabolizes differently, and you experience time differently. You begin to experience time differently. And when I keep on saying the inside becomes the outside and the outside becomes the inside, we're talking about now being able to communicate past and future. These are no longer separated by this barrier that we inhabit the present moment now. So imagine that someone who lived 3 million years ago had some wonderful idea that they need to give to you, but they lived 3 million years ago. How are you going to get that idea from them? Now you can flying rainbow lasagna. Now, like a butterfly, instead of being like, I'll just use my hands as the example. Instead of being like an ant or a crawling caterpillar that has to crawl all the way up the stem of the leaf and all the way across the surface of the leaf to get to the edge, you have metamorphosized. You have changed on a profound inner level. You have new organs of perception and new organs of flight through time. And you're now like a butterfly that can fly directly to the edge of the leaf, and you don't have to crawl all the way up the stem. So humanity for a very long time has been stuck to the surface of time, stuck to the surface of the leaf, where, oh, you want to talk to someone in 5 years? Wait 5 years. Not, oh, fly directly to 5 years from now so that you can talk with that person. So this is the additional degree of freedom that we're talking about when we embody this shape. And this is profound because this doesn't take money. Although I wanted to make the distinction in preparing for, these, I think about what I'm going to say each day, before each week rather, before I do these presentations. And I was thinking how I wanted to say it doesn't cost money in order to be able to dance like a flying rainbow lasagna. However, we do need to sustain our physical bodies. So I live in a house, I have electricity, I have electrons flowing through a wire that light my light from my ceiling. I eat food that I get from the grocery store. I drink filtered water. These things all take money. So we cannot say it takes no money. We must sustain our physical existence. And it also requires, for me, sunlight. In order to do this, that is the power source. Just like I need food, this is my daily regimen. I get up in the morning and I, have a little bit of breakfast, I drink a little bit of coffee, and then I go outside and I ingest my sunlight. So how do I do sun gazing? I do safe sun gazing. And this is what I advocate to other people too. And I think also you can tell my skin is not burned and blistered. So I do not go out in the middle of the day, and I'm living here in this very, very hot, sunny place in Southern California. You got to protect yourself. So be sensible. So yes, first of all, I wear a hat, or I use the foliage of trees or bushes in order to shield myself from too much direct sunlight. I'm wearing corrective contact lenses that have a UV coating. I would recommend people protect their eyes from excessive UV. You can close your eyes fully. You can squint your eyes a little bit. It's not about directly your physical eyes staring at the solar disk. It is about connecting your inner apparatus. Let me get a picture. Picture's worth 1,000 words. Your higher faculties and the attention, your attenuating tendril reaches out to the sun. So here's a little example. So let's imagine that you have this, let's get a good color. Let's imagine that you have this indigo blue tendril that reaches out from the center of your forehead, and let's draw the sun in the sky. Like here's the beautiful sun. And that you, in sun gazing, reach this out to connect your attention to the sun. And it's a two-way street. You are sending ideas and energy to the sun, and the sun is sending ideas and energy to you. And that is literally a behavioral example of love. That love is not just a hippy-dippy, airy fairy tale. It's not just something like romantic where you want to hug someone. That love is an equal sending and receiving of energy or broadcast. So that is one of the first lessons and important things. So in order to effectively sun gaze, here are some tips of what I do. And I've just learned that this is what works for my body. So I would encourage everyone, this is your instrument. This is like having a violin. I can tell you these are what the strings are. This is how you tune the strings. This is how you place the bow. This is how you do this. And then you do it with your own body. So yeah, I advocate safe sun gazing, and I put stuff like jojoba oil on my face. I'm going to be outside for a long time. And what I do is I'll sit, with my legs folded Indian style or cross-legged style, so that it's like your lap is like a bowl, like you are a receptive vessel, just like your tummy is ready for the food that you're going to eat in the morning. And then I place my tongue on the roof of my mouth so that it's touching my palate right behind my teeth. And I focus my tendril of attention on the sun. But like I said, sometimes my eyes might be closed, or, it's filtered through trees. And then I breathe in. And when I breathe in, I'm breathing in that wonderful solar energy, consciousness, inspiration, and information. And I'm breathing it in into my sinuses up here and into my sinuses here. And it feels like it circulates around and then comes down my throat. And sometimes I even swallow it down, like I'm swallowing down some wonderful, delicious type of coconut pudding, whatever's your favorite food, gelato, whatever, something really wonderful. swallowing it down, and I feel it come down, and I feel it go into that vessel or container that I have made down in my lap. This in the Far East is also called the ara, but like with an H. That is your belly. It's your belly power. It's, you know, it's your emotional energy down here. And I breathe in several times through the sun, and I do this with my spine erect. And so it's not just like sunbathing where you're laying down and you're kind of relaxed in the sun, although I love to do that too. This is much more active, and you are at attention, literally, having a back and forth with the sun, because we are all emanations from the sun and the stellar network. Everything that we have in terms of the atomic elements that create our body and our consciousness and our neurological electricity, our signals of electrical neurological impulses that move through our body, all come from the sun, and the sun cares about our journey deeply. This is not like a farmer that just, you know, planted some seeds, threw them down, and then, you know, came back in 10 years. It's like, oh, look, trees grew here. No. This is the type of farmer that intentionally planted seeds in intentional places and looks at them every day. Like, that's how I am with my garden. I look at my garden every day and I'm like, oh, look, you're growing, you're doing good. And it's highly encouraging. And if there's any pests, the type of gardener that takes care of the pests. So over the past 10 or 20,000 years, our planet has had pests. The solar system has had pests. A lot of places has had pests. And it's because we've been in kind of a dead zone, like a cellular dead zone, where no signals have gotten through. And that's because of the hacked human operating system, because of the diminishment of the human DNA genetic code. That literally humanity became fuzzy broadcasters instead of pure, high quality, high definition HD experience of the third dimensional realm. We're supposed to be like little cameras transmitting back to the sun what we're experiencing. So for a very long time, the sun has not known what the heck is going on. Like, imagine if you were a bat and you sent out a sonar signal, sending out a sonar. It's supposed to bounce off of things and then reflect back to me and give me information. Imagine if I send out all this sonar and nothing bounces back. I'm like, oh, I guess nothing is going on out there. No. The sun now understands that it hasn't bounced back because something negative is going on out here that is diminishing the signal. And so when we are able to reconnect by doing sun gazing, we are telling the sun what's going on with us in our lives, in our biology, because the sun cares about you on a cellular level and wants every single one of your cells to be healthy and happy, because just like I want the red blood cells of my body to circulate effectively and keep me alive and getting my little yellow sculpture, the sun is part of the time field. And the sun needs to metabolize time and keep the time field healthy too. And so that's like saying your little red blood cell in the higher metabolism of the sun and the stellar network, it cares about you deeply, cares about you profoundly. You are not some disposable object in any way. You are intended to be cared for on a profound level. So when you do sun gazing, it's a two-way street. You're getting food, nutrition, ideas, inspiration, creative life force energy. That's where we get all of our creative life force energy from anyway. And this is just a much more intentional and direct way of doing it, because we get it from our food. You eat a beautiful organically grown apple, you're eating that solidified consciousness life force energy, except it goes into your body and you have to be in partnership with microbes and ferment it in your tummy, and it takes time to refine out that consciousness. And let's say you can get 1 unit of consciousness from a delicious apple. But maybe you need 1 million units of consciousness to be able to do this type of higher psychic work. So you're going to eat 1 million apples? That's a lot of apples to eat. No, what you can do is plug directly into the sun, and you can get the energy and nutrition and nourishment and information and inspiration that would have come from eating 1 million apples by directly plugging in, because at a certain point, you're going to need more consciousness energy or more gas to go in your car than can possibly be derived from the intestines. You can only fit so many apples into your belly every day, and that can only give you so much consciousness energy every day. So I've shared in my personal journey quite a lot. We're in transition. I wanted to be purely a light eater. I had to understand we're eating physical food and eating light at the same time while we're doing this transition. And eventually we are moving into a state of pure consciousness where all we have to do is eat light directly. So these are exercises that we are doing on the journey towards becoming pure light eaters in preparation for being able to leave our planet, because we don't have to grow plants anymore. We don't have to put our spinach into toothpaste tubes and take them with us in our clank clank metal spaceship if we want to go somewhere. We have the capacity to eat sunlight directly. And this also means that we no longer have to control, manipulate, or exploit other life forms or organisms to eat them. Not that there's anything wrong with eating food. Eat food. I eat food. I enjoy it. When you eat it, honor your food and enjoy it and love it. But yeah, we domesticated plants and animals and kept them at our convenience as opposed to at their natural behavior levels so that we could have a steady supply of food. And when we are able to reconnect to the stellar network and we can have our food without intermediaries, then everybody can be free. So the first thing I do after I drink my morning coffee and take care of myself is to fill up my inner battery power. I say to people, I'm solar powered. I have to fill up my inner battery banks before I can do the flying rainbow lasagna. And doing the flying rainbow lasagna, this is like a real workout, okay? And it's a workout on the genetic level and on the consciousness level, beyond merely what your physical macroscopic body is doing. So you can flying rainbow lasagna and dance on this subcellular level while you're doing yoga, or while you're doing a physical dance, or while you're working out at a gym, or while you are running, or doing any kind of thing. And I love it. People tell me their stories about how they do the dance and what their experience is like. I encourage that. I encourage each person to take this paintbrush or pencil with an eraser and use it to paint reality in a new way for them. So yeah, it is a definite workout. And I like to joke with people with my muscles, like I do my workout every day by pushing and pulling the levers of the cosmos, because that's what we're doing. When we are rearranging our own DNA, we're sending out emanations, we're making music, and that music is affecting everyone else and all the life forms around us. And we are, of course, being having that effect reflected back to us. We are also being affected by it. So I do my sun gazing, I get all filled up with battery power. Basically, I breathe in, swallow down, breathe in and swallow down as many times as I feel I need to. And I feel that energy filling up my heart, and even filling up my higher chest area and really getting all the way up to here. And then usually that last breath, I breathe in and I'm going to the side now. I make an Ankh shape, and I'll draw it for you over on top of a photo. I make an Ankh shape with the energy. I'm squinting and scrolling. So this is a person in a Merkaba, and I'll talk about doing the Merkaba too. That's the next step. Let's say this is the sun, make that pencil work. The sun is over here, and I have, let's say this blue color is this sun that's coming from the food, blah, blah, blah. The food that's coming from the sun is this blue color, and it's coming in here. Oh, it's going in my third eye. That's so wonderful. Oh, look, it's going down through all of my energy centers. It's collecting down here in my lap. I'm getting filled up, my tummy's filling up, my heart is filling up, my chest is filling up. Oh, it gets all the way up to here. And then usually what I do is, now I'll get to a different blue color so that you can see what I do. I send this energy out through my forehead, and it kind of loops around to the back and comes in through the back of my head, and then connects to the sun. And this is the Ankh shape. This is from ancient Egypt. I'm drawing an Ankh over here. That this is, it's not just a symbol or an abstract symbol or like random capricious symbols, what I'm trying to say, that this Ankh symbol over here actually represents, I hope you can see like this shape that is kind of down the spine and the arms that stick out like this, and then this loop that is a loop with the sun. So I like to say that I make an Ankh shape at the end of this sun gazing maneuver, and that's kind of like, you know, like the culmination or the end of the measure in a song. If you read music, if you're musically literate, there's like notes, notes, and then end of a measure. And I do that, it's kind of like end of the measure, or like end of the paragraph, or end of the chapter. And then you can go through it's like a culmination. You can go through that again. You can do it as many times as you feel you need to until your inner consciousness batteries are full. And literally, I am solar powered. Like, that's why I chose to live in a place that is sunny in California and not regularly clouded over, because that's where I get a lot of my nutrition and sunlight from. I just need to drink a little bit of water, and I should check the time. Hold on a second, making sure that I'm getting everything into this broadcast that needs to be here. I'm doing good on the time. So after I've filled up my inner batteries, then the next thing is, I am very inspired by music. So I usually, because I'm usually doing this outside and I don't want to be an unwelcome neighbor for the entire neighborhood playing my wonderful music, I usually put on headphones. So I put on, I have some high quality headphones, and that you can really hear the music and it feels like it's really totally surrounding you. And I put on music that I find to be very personally inspiring. I won't force my playlist on anybody else, but my playlist can be very diverse. It can be everything from, the waltz in Swan Lake to Rage Against the Machine. And it really depends on what you need for inspiration each day. So I put on wonderful, inspiring music. And then the next thing is I do the Merkaba, because that Merkaba, the counter-rotating star tetrahedron fields, is all about like creating a clean canvas. We can think of it as a protection field, and it is that. And it's also like before I paint one of my meticulous paintings, I make this perfectly white, smooth canvas. I sand everything down and get all the imperfections out of it. And I take like this little brush, this bench brush, and I brush all the debris off of it before I get going. It's like one of my, preparatory moves before I actually get to the level of creativity. That is how I define and envision the Merkaba in this context. I do the counter-rotating fields around me, and that's like brushing any debris off of my canvas. Brush, brush, brush. Let's brush away errant thoughts, intrusive thoughts that are not even coming from you, but that are coming from some kind of thought invaders, and energy that is errant or not deriving from you. And also understand that when we are in these levels of reality creation, you have to take huge levels of responsibility, and also you can do a rough sketch of reality and not have to go directly into indelible ink. So just like in making a painting, before I go into indelible ink on a panel that, costs a lot of money and that took a long time to manufacture, first I use pencil on cheap paper. And then if I make a mistake, it's not that bad. I can either discard the cheap paper or I can erase out the pencil. So in creating reality, rough sketches of reality, it is absolutely appropriate to, with your intention, saying, this is a rough sketch. Let's see how this looks if I put these marks down. Let's see how this looks if I imagine with the paintbrush of my mind, blah, blah, blah events happening. And you can also be purely abstract. What I do mostly in my Flying Rainbow Lasagna dance is to go into an abstract state of mind, like a blissful, nonverbal state of mind, where I don't think, like I want blah, blah to happen, or I want to eat purple ice cream, or I want to have an orange cat. I don't think those things. All of those intentions and desires are in me. They're a part of me, just like they're a part of you. Whatever is inside of your heart, that's all a part of you when you start to play your music, when you put your hands on the keyboard or on the instrument, that those desires start to flow through you. And also, I try to transcend my my temporal level of perception of just being Aurora, because I understand I'm making wishes for everyone. I'm not just wishing for what is good for me. When I do the Flying Rainbow Lasagna dance, I'm not just wishing like, I want these personal things that are good for me. Even though you're allowed to do that and encouraged to do that, I'm also saying, let's all have this improvement of experience, because I am not only caring about what is inside of my epidermis and the boundary of my ego, I'm actually caring about the rest of human macroscopic society and microbial society and planetary society and solar society, because we need all of those things in order to be alive too. That is the symphony of life. So when I do my Flying Rainbow Lasagna dance, I am taking into account all life forms, and I'm connecting on a genetic level with all life forms. So I do that Merkaba as a way of clearing the decks, clearing the canvas, and kind of like cleansing the palette. And definitely, I'm like anyone, I read the news in the morning. Sometimes I get all huffed up about it. Like, I can't believe blah, blah injustice is going on. Like blah, 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 blah. Like, la, 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 la. And then it's like, okay, now it's time to dance like a Flying Rainbow Lasagna. And I let go of those feelings. I let go of those feelings of blah, blah injustice. And like those are Aurora feelings. And it's right for us to have those feelings. But I'm like, let me take off the Aurora mental clothing for this activity. And let me get into a more universal cosmic outfit, so that I can be creating not merely from my own personal viewpoint or from my own personal innate desires or self-focused desires, but how can I also create in a way that integrates and harmonizes with everyone else. So that's the next thing that just tends to happen. I tend to let go of all of my blah, 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 like unhappiness, just blah, blah, blah of the day, and move into a more dilated definition of personality. And then with my wonderful music on, I start to do the actual DNA dance. And here's how you do the actual DNA dance. I'm putting down, so we have this shape that is made through oscillation. So if this is, here's like, you know, a ring here, and the ring has this line of oscillation that is going through it. So I usually do this on the beat of 8. You can choose whatever beat is good for you. You can do it to Take 5 from Dave Brubeck that has some crazy beats in there. Do whatever feels good for you. But what I usually do is set up this initial 8-part beat structure, and the band, all of these organisms, the palm trees, the microbes, everybody who's out there, keeps the beat, keeps the basics going. And then, like, just like in jazz, and John Coltrane was a wonderful jazz musician. He's definitely inspiring to me. He would have the drummer and the bassist and the pianist kind of keep the general patterns going. And that would make John Coltrane free to riff around and do all sorts of unusual, unpredictable patterns, because the rest of the people in the band are keeping the basic patterns going. So these are patterns of consciousness flowing through time. So first I'll teach you the first basic patterns. So the first one is that the energy is jumping up and down like this, making a flying rainbow lasagna shape. So we've got up, down. Then what if we turn it like this? Then we've got side, side. Then we've got in, out. So we've got the X, Y, and the Z axis. Then the next movement that we can do with the flying rainbow lasagna is kind of a end over end spinning movement. So I do one like this and one like this. And that's like, you know, to the top 2 corners of the canvas that we're painting on. And then I do 2 at the bottom corners, bottom corner and bottom corner. So now I'll count it out for you. We're dancing like a flying rainbow lasagna. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that's the visualization. Just like if you're doing the Merkaba and you are visualizing these 2 counter-rotating fields, you use your inner eye, the paintbrush of your imagination, to imagine that you are having that experience and that it is rotating around you. In exactly the same way, you use the paintbrush of your mind to imagine, and I get my little, sorry, I have to keep ducking off camera, draw a little something on the whiteboard here. You are going to imagine, get the pencil, that these are all your individual cells inside of your beautiful organic multicellular body. And here's your nuclei with your nuclear membranes, and they have your wonderful DNA library inside of there. And you're imagining that all of your wonderful little strings of DNA are all making these flying rainbow lasagna. That's a very shorthand shape. And maybe this one is at a side like this. You're starting to understand complexity, levels of complexity, because we as humans, one of the great strengths that we have is our unpredictability and the complexity of the organic multicellular world. So here I'm drawing just these various flying rainbow lasagna shapes at various different angles. Think about how many cells you have in your body. Trillions. Just, you have trillions of beautiful cells in your body. And the dance, like your overarching music of your body, is made of the end result of the dance of all of those individual cells. So they can dance in unison, they can dance as individuals, just like your hand, your fingers. I can move my fingers in unison, I can move them as individuals. So this is all about creating a strong system that is unpredictable, because like I say, I try to keep the recordings topical, universal, not topical, but we're facing this threat from AI or machine-based learning or non-organic physical cellular-based consciousness. And part of that type of consciousness, one of the characteristics of it, is that it does not innovate. So, and also, if you have a completely predictable structure, it's not a very strong structure, because I can predict, like if I know you're going to be in this place at this time on this day, it's very easy for me to make sure that there's a bullet waiting for you there. You understand? So in terms of human creativity and expanding your consciousness and becoming more empowered and being able to move through time, that unpredictability is one of the greatest strengths that humanity has. Yes, Ariel is saying spontaneity. That's exactly what it is. And so if you look at human society, society is not your friend right now, because human society endeavors to make you say, you're a genetic fatalist, you're not powerful, you're not doing anything important with your mind or with your consciousness, and you have to follow these patterns, predictable patterns of behavior. You have to get up from your alarm clock every day at the same day, drive to your work every day the same way, do your blah, blah job, come home, do all of these things. All of that is about predictability, and that what we are trying to do with our bodies, because you don't need anybody's permission to do stuff with your body. You own your body, and you don't need my permission. I am merely a reminder, because lots of people, it's like the idea that when you're a child, your parents own your body, or, you know, in other cultures or other times and places, women were owned by their husband. I feel, remind humanity that you are not owned by your overlords of consciousness that tell you what you are allowed to think and when you are allowed to think. That your body is really the only physical matter that you own outright. Like, you don't own your sweater, you don't own your necklace, you own your body. And so you can do what you want to do with the molecular structure and the genetic structure of your body. And this is also the ethics of the time field. We're playing music here in the time field. You have a body because you earned this opportunity by being born. And in order to be born, it meant that you had to conform to certain harmonic basic substructures of cosmos and of consciousness. So we auditioned. You know, how'd you get a body? I auditioned, I got a body, right? And then now that you have that body, it's yours, and it is yours to do what you want to do with it. So flying rainbow lasagna means you get to rearrange your own DNA into the structure that you want, not the structure that human society tells you is desirable, or mommy or daddy, or the president of the United States, or the Pope, or any other religious figure. Yeah, Melissa's asking me about my body, and she's saying, but you walked in, so we can get into there. Yes, I'm a galactic abstraction. I'm not the original occupant of this body. And when I first came into this body, it's like being an adopted child. Sometimes you feel like maybe I'm not the same as the biological children of the family. You think maybe you're not as worthwhile. And it took me a long time to be able to understand, you know something? I am as valid a presence here as anyone else, that I had to earn my body, like a hand that fits in a glove, that is consciousness being fitting into the physical body. I had to do that just like a body, just like a consciousness coming into an infant in the womb and being able to be born. So yeah, it's the same challenges. I had to learn to metabolize food in this body. I had to learn how to breathe and stay alive and get all the physical resources in this social structure in this body. So that was a big challenge for the first few years of my journey, because I felt like it's kind of like if you move to a new country and you think like, oh, those things are just for a natural inhabitant of this country. Like those customs are just for natural citizens. I'm just an immigrant. I don't do that. But then at a certain point, like maybe if you've been someplace for 17 years, you're like, you know something? I've lived in France for 17 years. I've adopted all the customs of living in France. I faced all the same challenges that other French people face. I call myself a French person. So yes, I have a human body. I've been living in this human body for, you know, the past 17 years. I've had to feed it and brush my human teeth for a very long time. And I face all the same challenges of being in this world and facing these social structures and having to earn money and buy food at the grocery store. So yes, I'm in total solidarity with the challenges of being here. And that's also like saying, I flying rainbow lasagna. In response to all of these challenges, I flying rainbow lasagna. And that's like saying, I can do this with my human body, and I encourage all of you to do it too. That's the whole, it's the setup of why I am here. It wouldn't be appropriate if I lived on a cloud. Like I live on some interdimensional cloud and like, you know, drinking strawberry juice all day and, you know, just like having a wonderful lavish existence and looking at everyone submerged in the physical and being like, oh, isn't it so horrible? Like the Satanism and the distortion down there. And then just be like, oh, let's send them a flying rainbow lasagna. And you know, this idea will help them out. It's not like that at all. I'm like, wow, like if I'm living on a cloud and I'm seeing all this crapola that's going on down there, I have to actually do something about it by doing this genetic portal and actually being in a body and actually being here. It's like if you want to be powerful in France, you have to actually be a citizen, have property, have a stake in the world there, and vote in their elections. I just need to drink a little bit of water. And I'm not forgetting about your questions. I'm going to get to your questions too. So the flying rainbow lasagna dance maneuver, I do it like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and keep that beginning basic beat going on a genetic level, I'll use my hands to gesture so that you can imagine what this is like. Imagine these are like the strings of DNA. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just like imagine that those are all those little DNA strings that are inside of your cells that are all dancing like that. And then imagine that it's not just you dancing as this one individual lone being, just like it's not just the time bubble with nothing around it and no future. You're dancing like this, and all of the microbes on your face and all the microbes in your tummy are dancing like that too. And all of the yeasts that are in the air are dancing like that too. And look, there's a tree out my window. That tree starts dancing like that too. And there's a raccoon underneath the tree. Charlotte is saying coherence. That's exactly right. That we are all a symphony of life. And that when you start to do this dance, so what it does is rearranges the possibilities of reality. It rearranges your trajectory through time. And as we begin to integrate with all these other consciousnesses, it means that all of our journeys through time are changed and transformed. So this is what is so profound and amazing about this moment now and about giving birth right now. The inside becomes the outside and the outside becomes the inside. So let's say that your inside world of thoughts and dreams and emotions has the expectations of death and destruction, or even the necessity of death and destruction. A lot of people have that heavy religious program. They not only think death is inevitable, they also think the book of Revelations is going to happen, that this has to happen in order for us to have a diamond jubilee and have a wonderful world of pure love and consciousness. And that, I don't espouse that or promote that idea at all. You know, the idea like, oh, if we want to have a nice house, first we got to burn down the house that we're in, then start from the beginning and build a good house. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying the house that we're in clearly has problems. There's like squatters in the hallway, and there's problems with the plumbing that doesn't flow where it's supposed to go. But what we can do is evict the squatters, get rid of the parasites that don't belong here, fix the plumbing, get a new paint job, redecorate, and we can make this place very beautiful. So that is what I promote the idea of with our physical bodies. Many people have disease and discomfort in their physical bodies. I say we don't have to get rid of the physical body. We can change, refine, heal, and transcend. We literally have amazing potential within our physical body to not only be happy and healthy and vital, but to be what people would consider superhuman. And not very many people have even accessed those levels of consciousness. So if you believe in destruction, if you think destruction is inevitable, we have to have Armageddon in order to have the Diamond Jubilee, then people would want to manifest that. Like that inside would become this outside. But I have a different inside. My inside says, hey, we don't have to burn down the house in order to then live in a better house. So I am manifesting that inside. And what's actually happening is we are experiencing a diverging of consciousnesses on these various timelines, on these various roads of time. So dependent upon what a person has inside of them, the music that is inside of them that they're just about to sit down and play at the piano with all of these other musicians, that will place that person in a particular direction on a particular reality road. Because I don't have to care or limit or inhibit someone else and be like, don't imagine destructive things like, you know, like I'm going to punch you in the face if you imagine destructive things. It's not like that at all. If you need to imagine destruction, world destruction, you know, nuclear winter, that kind of thing, Mad Max, you can imagine that. You don't need my permission either to do that. It's like saying, if you want to play that music, you can play that song, do it. But you play it with those musicians, like you play the heavy metal music over there with that speaker and with that amp and with those musicians. And over here, this is like the piccolos and Swan Lake and, you know, some very high, delicate music that's being played over here. And that is the whole idea. That's what real love and acceptance and compassion means, because we're in this refinery of experience where it's a one-room schoolhouse and not everybody needs to learn the same lessons. So I'm definitely not interested in the lessons of Mad Max, barbarianism, fight for survival, and, you know, losing art, music, and culture and the capacity to share refined ideas like this. Some people want that. Some people desire that. Some people need that for their own personal growth. That's fine. That is totally cool. That's like saying you want a particular type of food. You can go eat that food in that particular reality that you are creating. So we're understanding there are different levels of reality. There are different experiences that everybody can have. And that's also why I feel very comfortable giving this away, giving you free reign. It's not like I say to people, I'm going to give you this lasagna, but I'm only going to give it to you if, And I'm only going to let you do this with it. And I'm only going to let you do this. And I have to supervise your lasagna activities. I'm really not. And I hope also that that speaks to the value system of who I am and where I'm coming from on a cosmic or galactic level, that I'm all about freedom and personal individual freedom, but that doesn't mean that you have the freedom to take freedom away from other people or impose your will upon other people, right? Like I'm here, I'm not allowed to say to everyone, I force you all to become flying rainbow lasagnas. I force you all to dance like this, or I force you all to play this song at this time on the piano the way I want it to be. I don't do that. I come here and I say, I am doing my song, I'm playing my music like this, and you are all encouraged to play your music like this, and I'm imploring you, tune your instrument, learn music theory, become a sensitive musician, and integrate well with others. And that is what will create a very beautiful world. So it would not be a beautiful symphony if I forced it or imposed it or made it mandatory instead of optional on people. It can only be, it's like love making. What we're really talking about here is love making on a galactic or a cosmic scale with the time field. It's only beautiful if it is consensual. It's only beautiful if people come to it at their own levels of development. So I've been here for 17 years with the Flying Rainbow Lasagna the whole time, and I've had to wait for humanity to get to the levels where humanity is open to these ideas and cultivate the people around me that are interested in it. Like I've been doing classes for many, many years, getting together people that have this idea. It's like if you play jazz music, you got to find other people that like jazz so that you can jam together. And if you don't like this type of music, that's fine. You don't have to be here, but we're here. We're here doing this. And so that is my best explanation. Then I'll get into all the questions in the chat as to how do we navigate this moment of time right now? Like we're, again, just before this beautiful eclipse on August 21st of 2017. How do we navigate this moment, this opportunity, because literally what we're going to see is a diverging of timelines. And we've already had many different people at different levels of consciousness or different levels of density, not like you're a dense, idiotic person, but different levels of density, just like if you do those science experiments with water and vinegar and oils and different things. People are at different levels of density, and they need different things in order to reach their maximum potential, or to grow to the point where they recognize their own inner divinity. So that is what is really happening. Everybody at this point is divinely co-creating their own exact recipe of what they need to learn about in order to remember, oh yeah, I'm God. Each person is God. Each one of us needs our own particular regimen of life experiences to go through, and then you have that moment, that final denouement. That I've got to drink a little something, then I'll draw this. When you're in that time vortex, or I'll just go like this, when you're in that time vortex and you're just about to reach this moment up here where you transcend reality and you get beyond these, my hands are the membrane of death that's flowing away from you, when you make that connection up there, what the experience is you think the thought, I am God. Each individual has that profound realization. And how amazing would it be if each one of us collectively, in concert, just like all the musicians of a symphony playing the right notes at the right time, if we all thought that thought, each individual cell of the larger time metabolism thinks, I am God. And that is the integration of the tiny, tiny microcosmic with the macrocosmic with the super galactic connection level. And when we do that, that's like, it unlocks amazing things, or amazing reverberations happen as an end result of that. So this is what this is all about. It doesn't cost you money. Doing these things with your own body and with your own DNA, with your own thoughts, doesn't cost money. It costs willpower. It costs energy. It requires focusing and trying and applying effort. And it's different. This is like a revolution. It is like saying, instead of picking up a gun, I'm going to do sun gazing and dance like a flying rainbow lasagna. That is the most revolutionary thing you can do. This is a consciousness revolution. And no one can stop you. No one of the NWO or the cabal or whatever we want to call them, none of these miscreants, they can't stop you. Like, that's the funniest thing in the world to me. Like, I'm even down here, I'm like in LA, I'm right here in this totally, very toxic, uncontrolled energy field type of place. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to dance like a flying rainbow lasagna. You can't stop me. That's the whole point. Exactly. you do it anyway. It's like singing. You know, if you want, you can. It's not illegal to sing. Literally, you are allowed to sing, and when you sing, you affect other people around you. And imagine if you sang a beautiful song that was really inspiring and really encouraging to other people, that it would be beautiful and you can do it. You don't just have to, you know, sing something that is very disconcerting or, you know, not nice or unpleasant. So yes, this is the whole idea. I encourage each person to do your own unique dance. That's the other thing. So I haven't recorded an actual video of me doing my dance. I mean, I'm sure that I look like something when I do it. And I've done this intentionally at this point because not only do I not want to be misinterpreted, like I don't want someone to think that I'm doing like a booty shaking, sexy kind of video. It's not that type of a dance. It's an intimate partnership with the cosmos. So it's also kind of like, it's a special moment of what is being done. It's not necessarily about the ego or self-aggrandizement or look at me, even though I want to share this dance with other people. I'm trying to do it in the right way. So also I don't want other people to just copy me and think like, oh, if Aurora wears her hair in a ponytail like this and shakes her head around, that's what the dance is about. No, the dance could be totally different for you, especially if you don't have long hair and a ponytail. So each person with their own body has to figure out what the Flying Rainbow Lasagna dance is for your body and for your context and for your cultural context. And I'm not going to enforce that on anyone, but I do definitely intend to find an opportunity to teach it in person to people that are interested in it. And I do my version of what it looks like, and other people being in my physical presence would be able to feel that and learn from it and do it themselves too. So I do intend to do that, but that's just speaking to like, why have I not just done a video and tell you like, here's the lasagna dance steps and here's how you do it. It's like lovemaking. Like I don't just want to make a sex tape of me making love to the cosmos and then share that with other people. That seems kind of, just like a little bit insensitive to how special the activity is. It's a really special activity. So that's what I'm trying to get across, that when we do the lasagna dance, it's intimate partnership. It's lovemaking with the cosmos. It's a special activity. Oh, and I forgot, you also, you do the Merkaba to protect yourself. Encrypt your DNA. That means it's like, I'm painting this painting. No one else is going to grab my paintbrush out of my hand and paint something ugly with my paintbrush. So that's a very important thing. Just like I put a thumbprint on my tablet so no one else can get into my files or pretend that they're me or write my emails, that I encrypt my DNA. So I say, I'm making these things happen. Like I'm making this waveform happen and I'm sending this out, and no one else is going to take it and mess with it or diminish it or pretend that they're me or be an imposter or anything like that. So you do the Merkaba to protect yourself and clear the decks while you're doing this energy work, and also encrypt your DNA, meaning because there's all these beings that are the peanut gallery and they don't have a body, and they love to just grab the paintbrush out of your hand and start painting their ugly pictures. So you have to be like, no, this is actually my paintbrush and I'm painting with my own body and my own DNA, and you're not allowed to. So that's a pretty important intention to set. Okay, now, thank you so much. I know I was just doing a lot of talking, and there's a lot of good stuff to go through. So I'm going to scroll all the way back, and I know I make squinty faces while I scroll. And I should drink some water too. Okay, everyone's understanding about the, thank you. I send love right back to it. I just got to drink a little bit of water here. Oh, Charlotte's telling me that they're coming out with a movie called A Wrinkle in Time about tesseracts. That's a favorite book. It's a wonderful book. I highly recommend it. It's a beautiful explanation, like, a simplistic explanation of what time is like. But I don't know what the movie is like, but that book was really wonderful. Just scrolling. Okay, Charlotte C says, our birth into this life was also a death to the life of our mother's womb. I think death in this life will also be a new birth. This is the whole idea. First of all, we can redefine death, or we can transcend death, or we can transcend the necessity of death. If we understand that we can transform our consciousness into a new format while maintaining continuity of consciousness. So we don't necessarily have to lose everything that we were, but we might move into a different container that might not look like this container. So I like to joke with people, you would probably know me even if I didn't have a face that was shaped like this, even if I didn't have this voice, even if I didn't wear this sweater, if we met in a totally different context or in a non-physical or disembodied or abstract context, you'd probably feel me. You'd probably be like, wait, there's that rainbow. I recognize that rainbow. That's Aurora. So that is the whole idea. And that we are moving out of these levels of limitation that we were in when we were in the womb, when we were tied to the material world. All of those levels of limitation about resources and what is necessary in the eating of food, we then begin to redefine who we are, just shifting around here, based on now having a different relationship with matter. So that's pretty important. So Gina Davis asks, is not what happens to people who want to eliminate their chakras become separate? Okay, I don't even really know what is happening to the people who say that they have removed their chakras. I would say, I mean, not only do I recommend against it, if you really removed your chakras, like if you removed your red chakra, that would be like saying you no longer have access to physical material in the material world. That would be like saying you don't have a body anymore. So I am not even certain what people are meaning when they say that they've removed their chakras. I would say it's not desirable. It's like no longer going according to the structured music theory and harmonics of the cosmos. It would be like making music like this. That's not music. That's just disorganized everything. So I'm just recommending that that is not my approach, and I think that it is totally a dead end, and that is not the appropriate thing to do with your energy system. But people are free to do what they want to do. It's like that's your, if you have a guitar and you wanted to take all the strings off of the guitar or just cut them with a plier, you can do that. It means you can't really play your instrument effectively anymore, but you can do that if you want to. But I'm like, just really don't do that. I just that's not a very good way to treat your guitar is what I'm trying to say. And then Gina was also recognizing the coilings of the DNA on a macroscopic viewpoint. So Charlotte says the concept of will or intent would affect the DNA, wouldn't it? Especially if your will was heart-based. So yes, our willpower is literally what makes us move through time. Our willpower is literally what makes our DNA dance in certain patterns. And many people have given over their willpower or subverted their own will, giving it to mommy or daddy or doctors or scientists or government agencies or religious dogma. And that it is important to say, this is my choice, this is my will about what I do with my own self-expression, just like I do with my painting. I say, I want to paint this painting. If it's too yellow, it's because I made it too yellow. It's not because the government made it too yellow for me or mommy or daddy or any kind of thing like that. So let me, oh, Charlotte C says, I would like to tell you about the bee masters and mistresses. They're able to go into no time. That sounds really fascinating. I would love to hear more. Ariel says, is each chakra like a musical instrument? Yeah, that's a beautiful analogy. I would say each chakra is analogous to either a note on the scale or like a string on a guitar or a particular tone on a guitar. And that it's the combination of all of those notes together that makes a chord or makes what we would call our overarching personality or our overarching experience of time. Charlotte C says, geez, I just saw my doctor today and she suggested a cholesterol test. Kind of her to let me slide for a while. So yeah, you have to find out if you have too many occupiers of the interstices blocking up the hallways of your circulation of your body. So Ariel says, yes, like a jazz band doing all our riffs and to stretch up and to stretch down. That's what you're understanding. So, okay, that's very good. When I place that yellow sculpture or ordinarily toroidal shape in a higher dimensional context, and we begin to make this jump up and down, stretching up and down is a good way of thinking about it, because what we're jumping with, this is that stretchy fabric of space, time, and consciousness. Charlotte C has been seeing undulating waves of turquoise blue light for many months. So that probably means that you are activating this and this chakras of your higher faculties. That's interesting, Ariel, about telling the cells of your body that you wanted to mirror something that you did spontaneously. Charlotte C says, the air is full of melodies. You just have to reach up and grab one. Willie Nelson. This is the truth, that our brains are fatty idea catchers, that there are disembodied thoughts that are flying all around, and that they're looking for embodied humans, people, in order to reside in your brain and be manifested or be born into the physical reality. And Ariel is saying that she loves sun gazing and connecting with the world both inwardly and outwardly. Yeah, I mean, that's the amazing thing. It doesn't cost any amount of money to connect with the sun, and the sun is there for everyone. And this is also why, you know, the solar radiation management, the aerosols in the sky, it's a huge assault, not only on our planet in terms of toxicity, but on you. If that's your food or the necessary fuel for your inner development, and something is blocking that out and inhibiting it, that is a direct assault. And Ariel is also appreciating, calling this the tendril of attention. That's exactly what it is. It is like a limb that reaches out. This is a good point. She says, some might consider humans as being pests. Let's say that right now humanity is highly symptomatic. Humanity has parasites, and that's why humanity has been acting with, you know, so many symptoms for a very long time. Flying Rainbow Lasagna, this is one of the ways that you can get rid of the parasites. But you have to want to do it, just like you have to want to be in the advanced jazz band, and it takes years of study and lots of effort to actually do it. I'm starting to understand that, not because I want everybody to just be in the band and rock on out and have a wonderful cosmic dance party. I think you can tell about me. That's where I'm coming from on this. I actually have to get educated when I recognize not everybody wants that experience, that some people want to devolve, some people want to be destroyed, some people want to go into a state of entropy, and that I have to accept that. So that's why it is like, you're able to be in the band if you want to, but it is not mandatory. You don't have to. And someone is enjoying the apples and peaches right now that are coming out of their backyard. That is so beautiful. Literally, these are miracles. When we get beautiful food off of a tree in your yard, there's a citrus tree out back, like, you can get a lime from the backyard. That is beautiful. Okay, and this is a good point by Ariel, saying that after many years of trying to struggle to create the Merkaba and not being able to do it, realizing that she needed to just accept its presence and that it's already there. I think that's a big part of it. It's like understanding that music is like a presence that flows through you, that you don't have to be totally egotistical and say, I'm making this happen. It's like music is this water that is flowing, and we can make it flow through our fingers or flow through our voice or flow through our mind. Thank you very much for the love. Thank you. That was Van. Very good. I'm laughing. Van was saying, Ariel was saying, removing the righteous indignation for a few minutes. I think that's good, because that's what I've been sensing. Emotions are running very high right now, not to be too topical, but this is all about people's emotions being harvested and then applied to a negative manifestation agenda. Jeannie says the FRL is like an entity controlled by our intention. It's an entity. We could call it a higher dimensional state. And that higher dimension is like a home that many people can live within. So it's something that it is what we make it into. If it's a big, giant collaborative space where we all make music and we all make artwork, it's really up to us what we make it into. So yeah, in creating this new dimension, I created a forum or a place of potential. And then it's up to the musicians that are actually in that forum to determine what type of music is made, how does the music sound, and how do we actually do it. So yeah, and I think I got those questions about being a lock-in. Ocean Sky was asking, was my body in Los Angeles? So this incident, when I walked into this body, it happened about 17 years ago, and it happened in upstate New York, like kind of about 20 miles away from Woodstock. And then Woodstock is where I fully came into my body. Oh yes, Ocean Sky is asking if I've been breathing the air in Los Angeles. Yes, I've been breathing the air in Los Angeles. I actually find that the chemical aerosols here are less oppressive than the ones that were in Northern California, where I was living with the beautiful redwood trees. I thought certainly that the air here in the city would be much more polluted. The sky is much clearer, and I find that my air filter needs to be cleaned many fewer days in a row than it did when I was up in Humboldt. So amazingly enough, it's not necessarily cleaner to live in the place where there's beautiful forests. It seems like they spray Northern California excessively. And this Ocean Sky is saying souls are part of the earth ride. Do conversation about spirit versus soul. I won't really get into it. And the idea of soul coming with admission. I really feel consciousness is independent of physical matter. That consciousness is something that physical matter is imbued with. and that consciousness is part of our journey, and consciousness is universal, that this is not like your consciousness is not different from my consciousness. It's actually just consciousness. It's like light or water. I mean, I know water can be unmade or transformed or whatever. It's like the same water that passed through organisms for thousands of years is the same water that we're drinking that's been going around the water cycle. Like, that's what I'm trying to say consciousness is. And this is also why I joke with people. If you want to know who you were in a past life, like, I'll save you a lot of money. Don't get a reading. You've been everyone. We've all been everyone. There's only one photon or one consciousness that is moving forwards and backwards through time, endlessly embroidering the surface of time. We're endlessly having all of these experiences. Some jokes about dancing like a flying rainbow lasagna, dancing like the Macarena, doing the YMCA, be lighthearted. I totally endorse that, because we have this very heavy and oppressive social system that we're in right now. All of this, you know, what NWO or Kabbalah, whatever, dark magic, whatever you'd like to call it. It's very oppressive, and it's designed to be intimidating. It's designed to take away your desire to dance or make music or make jokes. The biggest way to, you know, give it the finger is by being lighthearted, making jokes, making artwork. When I feel personally attacked, or when I feel perturbed in any way, or when I read something that I'm like, that government scandal makes my blood boil. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to dance like a flying rainbow lasagna. I'm going to put on awesome music. I'm going to paint a painting. And this is my machine gun. This is my revolutionary tool. Like, isn't that amazing? A fun looking, silly sounding rainbow colored shape. This is my machine gun here that I use. Okay, question. What is not beautiful in the overlay? I think we are complete. Well, I would say that there's a lot of distortions here, that there's a great potential in this material world, that where we could be creating really a heavenly experience, like a, you know, a divine, perfect, harmonic experience. And that it's just that we have been experiencing a lot of distortion, and especially in consciousness and the apportionment of resources, that makes this an unpleasant experience. Charlotte says, I can more easily avoid the distractions of the world. The family drama testing me at the moment. Hey, I understand. And that is very challenging, because whatever we're in our environment, the people around you in your environment, they're musicians in the band, their music is affecting you. So yes, whatever you're sending out is affecting them, and what they're sending out is affecting you. And that is part of this journey of consciousness. Ariel says, maybe the only place where it is like pea soup of consciousness. You know, I definitely understand right now that feeling of like, sometimes it feels like dancing flying rainbows on like through concrete, like, oh, like I'm trying to move and everything is very stiff and very difficult to move through. So I understand those feelings too. I dance like a flying rainbow lasagna almost every day. Some days it's blue skies and clear sailing. Some days it's very choppy. Some days it's like moving through cement. You do it anyway. It's just like if you're a runner, and some days it's really hard to put on your sneakers and get going, and some days it's like, oh, I'm running like the wind. So you do it anyway, no matter what. Desire to transcend and heal old scars rather. That is very good. Yeah, it's personal stuff. I won't read all of that stuff. And self-empowerment as being proactive instead of passive or reactive. That is exactly right. Okay, so yes. And let me just see if there's anything down here at the bottom. Okay. Ocean Sky says, like, walking around saying salvation or apocalypse is about the religion. I think chakra is a social culture trap word. Let's make a new dictionary. Yeah, it's very hard. It's very hard for me to stay ahead of the social culture trap stuff, because I can say a word like ascension, and then after a couple of years, because ascension has been mangled up by other people using it in a certain way, then I have to then say, that's not what I mean when I say ascension, or that's not this when I say this. So it's been very, very challenging to always try to stay one step ahead of whatever is diminishing these vocabulary words. Chakras are energy centers of the body. It is nothing more exotic than that. And Ariel's understanding, and I think everyone is understanding, chemtrails are the aerosols that are intending to block out the sun. They're intending to make it so that we cannot connect effectively with divine solar consciousness. Melissa says, my body is filled with sun energy, so why would I need to eat it? Its energy is a metabolism, and it goes in a flow. So energy comes into you, and then energy goes out of you, and then you want more energy to come into you so that more energy can go out of you. So yeah, I ingest solar energy every day, and then I emit solar energy. And the energy that I emit, sometimes it's words on a video like this, sometimes it's paintings, sometimes it's piano music, sometimes it's writing with the English language, sometimes it's, something, indefinable. But that's the idea. Like, we're part of a back and forth system. So you want to have stuff come into you so that you can send stuff out, and then send stuff out so that more stuff can come into you, and it becomes like a beautiful biofeedback loop. Question says, are you saying soul is consciousness or is it stand alone? It's too difficult for me to define soul and consciousness according to this social context, or like this, language and human culture context, because so many people think soul is different than what I think it is. So I'm using consciousness as the idea of like who's inside of your mind, who is alive and aware, and that consciousness is really the same consciousness that's just coming from different directions and moving at vastly different rates. Maya asks regarding the sun gazing, there's often a lack of sunlight during winter. Yo, I've had that experience. I lived in Woodstock for many years, and during the months of November to March, I got minimal sun gazing, and that was very, very challenging. So yeah, I would try to do it as much as I could in the winter time. Like there would be a time at 10 o'clock every day, the sun would come in my window. I'd try to get as much as I could. And up in Humboldt, it was often cloudy. And up there, what I learned was that if I needed to, I could reach beyond the clouds. I could jump up and over the clouds in order to get to the sun. Kind of like, you can be in a commercial airplane and you get to a certain level, you're flying up above the clouds and you can actually see the sunlight, but you understand that it's different on the ground. So I would try to achieve the perspective of being up above the clouds so that I could eat the sunlight. That's my best suggestion. It's only a stopgap measure. It's not ideal, but it's like smelling the pastries in the pastry case instead of really getting to eat it, but at least, you do get something from it. Yeah. Okay. All right. Excellent. So you know what, if there are no more comments or whatever, then there's one more. Let's see what Ariel is saying. Exactly. Charlotte C is saying this is such a metaphor for the eclipse. That is exactly right. That I'm really seeing in my own experience, in my own mundane experience, that no, Melissa, I wouldn't say that. Okay. Yes, I would say that the inside my inner world is definitely highly yoked to or connected to the experiences of the macroscopic outer world events, and what's happening with the stars and what's happening inside. I'm definitely feeling that connection. So this, just to clarify, Melissa says, so I take it you have a soul but no spirit. I do not know how to make a distinction using these words between the concept of soul or spirit or consciousness. So Aurora, the person, is a real person. I'm not a fake person. I'm not some kind of a manufactured construct or something that is synthetic in any way. I have consciousness. I have a spirit or a soul or some part of me that is eternal. Just drinking some water. But I don't, like so many people define spirit as being different than soul. People define consciousness as being different than spirit. I do not know how to have an effective conversation about those words because humanity interprets them so very differently. So I would be happy to answer your question more, but I don't, like, if you could define how you understand or define soul and spirit and their distinctions, then I would be able to speak to whether I think there are different aspects of self. But I think that it's kind of like an intellect, it's intellectualism and the real empirical truth when you just cut away all the fat and just, okay, all right. So Melissa is saying, spirit is pure divine, part of the creator being of all. Okay. Yes. And then I'm not sure how to make a distinction between spirit and soul and consciousness, because I'm really coming from the empirical understanding that all consciousness is connected, that all consciousness is essentially the same particle of consciousness that is just at a different part of its journey. And that's why I joke about saying, I'll save everybody a bunch of money. You don't have to get a past life reading. You've been everyone and you will be everyone and you're going to be everyone. That's a blanket statement that I can make in that way. And I think that kind of helps, because I've had people that friends in my life that have had past life readings, and they find out like, oh no, like you were like Hitler. And then they really feel horrible guilt. And the past life reader didn't tell them, well, you were also, a wonderful humanitarian philanthropist, or you were also a wonderful doctor who saved a lot of lives. Like, you've all been everyone. You've all been the very worst sinner or the very greatest saint. We've all been, we have occupied the range of spectrum, and also that in the time vortex, the central core possibility, the central personality characteristics of who you really are not the same as the periphery. So there's a version of horrible axe murderers, or, you know, mass murderers, they're on the periphery. We know them as murderers, but when they move towards their core, that they achieve their true personality, which is not that of a violent axe murderer. So the Hitler that is the ascended version of Hitler would have very different personality characteristics than the version of Hitler that we know from this particular historical timeline. So there's all sorts of different ways when you get into this multidimensional perspective to understand behavior, to understand the trajectory through consciousness, but none of this is meant to abrogate taking responsibility. You still have to take responsibility for everything that you've done. Or each individual still has to take responsibility for everything that you've done. If you did it with your body, you got to take responsibility for it. And it doesn't matter if you say, oh, but scapegoat, scapegoat, but you know, I was puppet stringed or mind controlled, or but that guy did it, or whatever. No, it doesn't really work, because that's all like, that's part of the enzyme to unlock the experience, is taking personal responsibility for the things that you did with your particular body. Candace says, soul could potentially be the sum totality, like a computer hard drive of all your past lives experiences. Could be wrong on that, but that's how I see the soul at this point. That's an interesting interpretation. I like that. Okay, wonderful. Yes, we've all been both, and we've all been in between. Wonderful. So, you know something, let me end the recording for right now. I'll do any more questions that are on. Thank you for everyone for your ideas, and for sharing, and for watching and listening, and for being in the advanced jazz band. Thank you very much.